All right. So I think we're live. Um,
Yep.
cool. So Razor is here. Ashley already adding the first comment. Hello, Razor. So we're here live with James Ham, animator at Insomniac, animator extraordinaire, epic showreel, epic work on Spider-Man Miles Morales. And since I seen your showreel, we've been talking on Twitter from time to time. But since I seen your showreel, I'm like, yeah, we need to talk about animation and like your passion for this and how you got here and all that stuff. So, as I
Absolutely.
mentioned to you behind the scenes, we'll do a little bit of like talking about your showreel. But I want to find out mostly about James Ham, the man. How's it going? How's things? Thanks for joining me, man.
No, thanks for having me. Things have been good. Just got into a new place, starting to get settled in. Starting to get back into the workforce. First day back in the studio will be Tuesday,
Nice.
so super excited about that after a nice long vacation of just kind of relaxing and not doing anything animation related.
Yeah.
So just playing games and just relaxing for the most part. So it's been good.
Nice one, man. Nice one. Yeah, no, thanks a lot for taking the time, man. I know you're a busy guy. So, and especially just before you start working as well, right?
Yeah,
Because yeah, come next week, I guess you're gonna be busy once again.
back on the grind. Back on
Back
the
on
grind
grind,
for sure.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. So yeah, actually, like perfect. Well, like, so what kind of games are you playing right now?
I've been playing a lot of Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghosts.
I
Beautiful.
tried to play that when it first came out, and I was so caught up in trying to work on Miles that I was just like, I can't focus on this right now. And
Yeah.
now that I've had this vacation, Ghost has been amazing playing through that.
Oh yeah.
I started replaying God of War.
Oh
That's been
yeah.
just
Amazing.
one of my favorite games of 2018, and it's so good. And even before I did that, I replayed God of War 3 just because I could. And so much fun. Just
Yeah.
I remember going to pick God of War 3 up at GameStop back in the day when it first came out. I was there at midnight to pick it up for the
Yeah.
midnight release of it, and it was
That's
crazy. I
amazing, man.
think that's the only game I've ever done that for.
So, did you used to play God of War before, and then you were like highly expecting the new God of War to drop?
I wasn't expecting it, but
Yeah.
I definitely played the old ones. The old ones were part of what got me into the industry. Like it
Nice.
was the original God of War and the original Uncharted.
Yeah.
Uh, those games like blew my mind. I remember going to Best Buy and going to play when they had the little stands where you could play games and play the demos. And I played God of War, and they're like press circle and press triangle. And I was like, you could rip somebody apart. I was like, you could do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, that's
It's
a thing.
yeah.
Kind of blew my mind. And
Yeah.
then
No. Cool,
and then
man.
with Uncharted, I had the demo for that because I never had the full game growing up, but I had the demo,
Yeah.
and I just remember playing this demo over and over just because the environment was so beautiful. And yeah,
Yeah, man.
those two games blew my mind. So
Good choices, man. Good choices. They are both epic. I remember when they first came out, like they shake the industry, and like it's
yeah,
really funny the fact that you don't really get like demos of like single player stories that much nowadays, right?
yeah. No,
It's
those are definitely my type of games though. Like
yeah,
those single player stories of they they captivate me unlike other games, I guess you could say. So
yeah, yeah. I'm also a single player story kind of guy. I
yeah,
don't know. I sometimes I feel like because I'm old school, I'm single player, but for
yeah,
some reason, there's something comforting about sitting in your sofa and playing a good story and being like just consumed by it.
yeah.
Especially when it takes like a week or two, and you cannot wait for the day to finish and just like play Uncharted again. And it's
Yeah,
like, what's next? You know?
Exactly. And I remember a quick story about like the first game that I was like entranced by. Like I never felt addicted to a game,
Yeah.
but it was after I graduated college and I went to some meetup I was still trying to get into the industry, and I was talking to somebody and I ended up getting Bloodborne for free. And at the
Nice.
time I hadn't heard about it. I had no
Yeah.
idea what it was about, and I just popped it in. And I remember just like in the beginning of the game, you die by the werewolf or whatever, and I saw a
Yeah.
person, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go talk to this person. Maybe I can get some information.
Yeah.
And the guy lit me on fire. And I was like, all right, I see what kind
Okay.
of game this is. And
Not friendly.
I got hooked. That game
Yeah.
had me so addicted. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I have to keep playing this game. That
Yeah.
game had me addicted to it. And it's just that single player just figuring
Yeah.
out this world. So
For sure. It's hard as nails as well, right?
yeah,
Bloodborne.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
Ridiculous.
incredible, man. I was playing, I think, was it called Dark Souls? The
Yeah.
new one. Yeah, Dark Souls.
So Demon Souls.
Demon Souls, that's it. And yeah, I forget how hard those games were. And there's no being nice to you. You die, you go back to the beginning, and you start again.
Yeah, it's
And
punishing.
it's punishing. So it feels really rewarding when you actually kind of make some progress.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really nice.
yeah.
That's cool, man. Like, so just for everyone in the chat right now, feel free to actually drop questions for James and I, if you like, and we'll actually answer them as we go. So yeah, feel free. We already have about 29 people looking. So thanks a lot for everyone.
Yes, thanks for
That
joining.
Yeah, thanks for joining. So like, I would like to know the thing that I'm most curious about is like, how do you actually got to be an animator, especially gameplay animator? Because I feel like you actually wanted to be a gameplay animator from the very beginning.
Mhm.
That's what I can see from your show reel. The passion is there.
Right.
So I want to know a little bit about that, if you don't
Um.
mind.
So I guess I got into animation in particular was like second grade. That's when I discovered Dragon Ball Z, and that show just kind of like blew my mind. Everything I drew from that point out had spiky hair, had the muscles. I drew pictures of my mom. I was like, "Mom,"
Flames.
and she's like, "Why do I have muscles?" So I was like, "Cause you're in Dragon Ball Z land. That's that's where you are." but
Amazing. She was a
but
Saiyan.
like yeah, exactly. She was a fan. But like
Yeah.
that kind of like put me in the mode of like, oh, I want to do art for a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then once I graduated college, I moved out to LA and I was just applying everywhere. And I was like
Yeah.
applying to Naughty Dog, Insomniac, Infinity Ward, like any studio I could think of, just trying to get in. And
Mm.
the studio that ended up getting me was that picked me up was Naughty Dog.
Oh,
So when I was at Naughty Dog working on Uncharted 4, I got to learn a little bit about both cinematics and gameplay.
nice.
And I just kind of floated around. And I was trying to understand what things were. I was like, what does the NPC mean? And what
Hmm.
does this mean? And that's kind of where I had that start. And then
Nice.
from there, I went to Infinity Ward and worked on Call of Duty.
Hmm.
And I was on the zombie team there. And that was a little bit more of the gameplay stuff.
Yeah.
And that was just a great experience of trying to be creative, trying to do something where I haven't seen zombies done before, like
Hmm.
some type of action that I haven't seen a zombie do in movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
And then from on Marvel Spider-Man, I was on the cinematics team,
Oh, okay.
and
Cool.
that was just, I mean, Spider-Man's just a great character,
Oh,
like
yeah.
to animate,
Yeah.
like
Who
yeah,
would want that?
like just the creativity that comes with that is like you could just kind of do any and everything with this character and trying to figure
Yeah.
out ways that make him feel unique. And my biggest thing is always trying to do something that I haven't seen done before,
Yeah.
whether that's like just a shot that I haven't seen done before or gameplay wise. So
Yeah.
in the first game, my one of my favorite scenes I worked on is when he first gets his advanced suit and he slides his hand across the ground. And I
Hmm.
kind of built that shot. I kind of built that whole scene on just trying to slowly show what this suit is going to be. And
Yeah.
then the biggest part was like I just really wanted his hand to like glide across the ground like in a fun way, like he's just having a fun time.
Yeah. That
So
looks cool. That was on your show reel, right?
mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that looks really cool. I'm gonna see if I actually can find it so people can see it. And
No, wait,
by the way,
that one's not on the show reel because
oh, it's not. Okay,
that's not the original Spider-Man. But
okay,
then for Miles, I was on gameplay, and that was my first time full time on gameplay,
yeah,
and that was just fun, just trying to figure out what he's gonna move like, what the end experience is gonna feel like, what makes it fun, what's if he's doing it all the time, is it gonna get tiring? Making sure there's enough variety into it,
hmm,
but always trying to think outside the box. And for him, what I felt like was something that I hadn't seen before was, as for gameplay wise, was like Spider-Man falling backwards, and that's kind of how that came about. It was just like, let me see if I can
yeah,
find a way to have him falling backwards in this reverse style,
yeah.
and how much work is that going to make? So
Yeah, no, but it looks cool though. It looks cool because I
thank
saw the stuff that you actually showed, that where you know how when you can style when you're actually
mhm.
swinging, you actually can actually add extra style points as you actually kind of go back and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that stuff looks great. But I'm guessing
thank
it must have been really hard to pull some of the moves in order to actually get them to blend with each other and all that good stuff, right?
yeah, definitely made like lots of transitions into it, and just trying to honestly just trying to think of what these moves are.
Yeah,
That was honestly probably one of the hardest parts, trying to think of what all these moves are, because I knew I wanted a lot more tricks for this one, but I didn't know what those tricks were going to be, so I kind of had to set like a theme to it. So
Yeah.
every time you press up and then do a trick, it's more like a ball theme. So I call that like my ball chain. Then if you go to the left first, it's more like skateboarding or rollerblade
Right.
moves. So trying to come up with a theme for each command, and then
Hmm.
how do you get out of that from a swing?
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Yeah.
that was the crazy part. It's like I have X amount of frames to
Yeah.
find a transition into a swing out. So
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I enjoy the most because I know how difficult it is to actually pull out transitions, and I know that you probably had to, in the end, you probably have to count frames about much time do you have in order for you to be able to get into the move, do the move, and get out of the move, right?
exactly, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is some of the stuff that, like, I guess people that haven't worked in games don't really realize, but there's a certain art to it because for you to do it in such a small amount of time and to make it flow like you did for
yeah,
Spider-Man, it's incredibly hard.
yeah. It was tough.
Yeah,
It was tough, and just the amount of the amount of transitions is what I didn't realize how much I signed up for because I didn't take it into account like, oh, what if the player does this? What if the player does that? And I was just like, all right,
yeah,
yeah. And I play it for a certain way. Then somebody else would say, hey, when I press it this way, this happens. So I'm like, I gotta make a transition for this now. So
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah.
ended
It's
up becoming a can of worms, but it was well worth it.
for
So
sure, for sure. I guess you guys had QA all over it
oh
when it
yeah,
comes to right.
oh yeah, they did an
Um,
amazing job. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, QA is awesome. Is really awesome. Like when you're actually in the thick of it, the amount of bugs they find. At some
yeah.
points, you actually find it like they're doing an amazing, especially when they do an amazing job. You find it like, I hope they don't when you do a submission. I hope they don't find anything else. I hope this time
Oh yeah.
is the time. But there's always something that
There's
you can
always
actually
something.
tweak.
You fix two things, something else breaks somewhere else down the line.
That's it, man. And then
Yeah.
someone else makes a change on another department that affects your department, so now you have to change it as well.
Yep. Yeah. It's a
It's
constant
interesting.
circle. But
Yeah, man.
that's what makes it great. That's what makes the collaboration with everyone on the team so unique because it's this we live in this community where everyone has these different skills and being able to work with everyone to pull off these crazy ideas is amazing.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. The collaboration of it all, right?
Yeah, because
Teamwork.
the ideas come from everyone. Then it's like, all right, how do we make that look cool? What do we need in order
Yeah,
for this to get this to work and to pull off? So
for sure, man, for sure. Yeah, that's the biggest change, the biggest difference between I feel is the biggest difference between film and games. I feel because I mean, film is also a collaborative endeavor, but
mhm,
it's much more that you actually sit down as an animator and you do your shot, and then you take it to your director or supervisor, do it, come back and do the same thing. While games, I feel like we actually have to run around a lot, work, talk to different departments, get different things done. Sometimes your animations are not working because of features that hasn't been implemented yet. So
yeah,
what's up with that? So you have to go and talk to people.
yeah,
So you end up talking with everybody,
yeah.
and
It's
it's really cool.
constant
Yeah, man.
communication with everyone. So
Yeah, yeah. That's really cool, man. So, like, did you actually wanted to be a gameplay animator from the beginning, or do you actually wanted to get into films first?
um, initially, I wanted to get into TV. Actually, I wanted
TV?
to. So yeah, when I moved out to LA, initially my plan was move out to LA, find a way to get into Nickelodeon, and at the time I wanted to work on the Ninja Turtles cartoon that was
Oh man,
on.
that looks amazing, man.
So yeah, the CG, the
Oh,
animation in that was so smooth and it was so stylized. Like, that would have been amazing. But
yeah.
I never got a response from them.
Okay, fair
Never
enough.
got a response from them. And then then I, like I said, when I got to Naughty Dog, I was just kind of like I understood games to an extent,
Yeah,
but I didn't know how much went into gameplay animation. So I got a piece of it there.
right.
But I want to say, to be honest, I want to say on Miles is when I was like, that's when I really got into gameplay animation because
Nice. Okay.
that was the first time I was doing it full time, and
Yeah,
it was such a gratification of doing something, putting it in game, checking your work, and like
yeah.
does it how does it feel? And that was the biggest thing was asking yourself, how does it feel? Does it
How does
feel
it? Yeah,
like does it feel responsive? Does it feel powerful? Does it feel smooth like you want it to? If
yeah.
not, why isn't it? So
That's it. And then you have to talk to some people.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, no, that's cool, man. That's really cool. So Nickelodeon, um,
yeah.
they actually have like really cool shows. Like there was points that I thought because of them, I thought
Mhm.
working in TV must be fun.
Yeah,
Especially for Nickelodeon. The amount of shows they pump out and the originality of them, it's bananas.
yeah.
Um, so like like a bit of an awkward question for you, but do you prefer cinematics or gameplay at this point? What do you think?
Right now in my career, I prefer gameplay just because like cinematics is cool because as a cinematic animator, whatever I make, that's exactly what the player is going to see. I have control of
Yeah.
the camera. I have control of what the characters are, what both characters are doing at any given moment in the cinematics. But
Hmm.
gameplay is a little bit more random in a sense of I don't know what the character is going to be doing. I don't know where they're going to have the camera positioned. I don't know if they're going to press square first or X first.
Yeah.
And coming up with ways to make the character feel seamless throughout whatever buttons they press.
Yeah.
Um, I've learned to really enjoy that, and
Yeah.
also because it's so rewarding instantly in a sense of just like you press a button and boom it happens, and trying to be like like if I had pressed square and you punch an enemy and you did it in 8 frames,
Yeah.
finding out ways like all right if I make it 6 frames on impact, would that feel better? How can
That's
we
it.
shorten it? Or does it need to be longer if this is a stronger attack? Like finding out
Hmm.
that rhythm, finding a rhythm that goes into the gameplay animation. Something about that really spoke to me on Miles.
For sure,
So
man. Yeah.
right now, gameplay is where it's at for me.
Awesome, man. Like, yeah, I'm happy to hear that because I feel like this is the reason why I started the YouTube channel. I feel like that it's difficult to see that bridge. It only happens after a while, like you mentioned, right? Like you
Yeah,
work on it for a little bit. Maybe in the beginning you don't quite get it because you're repetitive and you don't get like why things so broken down into little bits and stuff.
yeah,
But after you go through a process, it takes a few years sometimes. But then when you actually start to see gameplay for what it is, and you can start manipulating things and adding things in game and seeing them react and people having a good feel for it and giving that smile to people
yeah,
is addictive. It's really addictive, and
yeah,
and it's something different. And I'm trying to obviously kind of say this in the videos the best way possible, but unless you experience it, because it's such an interactive medium,
yeah.
it's difficult to portray exactly what makes gameplay animation special.
Yeah, because you get feedback on gameplay animation all the time of it doesn't feel snappy enough, or
Yeah,
make it feel snappier, make it or he's not jumping high enough for this move. He shouldn't twist his body as much. And it's like, all right, well, how can I make that still feel as strong if he's not going to have that torque? Is there another way that I can get that torque in there
yeah,
for doing whatever action he's doing? So yeah, it's such a collaborative thing on gameplay.
nice one, man.
Cinematics is just cinematics is great in the sense of I felt at least a lot more control as far as like the whole aspect of what the player is seeing,
For sure.
and gameplay feels like I have control of what the player is doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean the way I see it as well, you spend most of the time obviously playing a game because that's what we bought the game for. So if you
Yeah,
actually do a move that is like super big and people feel good, they will do that move hundreds and hundreds of time.
yeah,
And the trick is making sure that that move feels good, not only like the first time you do it, but every
mhm,
single time you do it. And
yeah.
that stuff, the difference is big there, you know?
Speaking of that, do you have a favorite move, or is there any move not necessarily tied to Spider-Man, but any move
Mhm.
from any game that sticks out to you? Like every time I do this move, it's just gratifying.
Yes. So there's quite a few. I think the first that comes to mind is God of War,
Hmm.
and the latest one. And I was surprised because you probably can relate to this. Whenever, as an animator, gameplay animator, the first thing you do when you get your controller and you play the game is like you start running and walking and jogging and jumping and see how that feels.
Yeah.
You look like a madman looking around in
Yep.
circles and stuff. Like, is this good? What can I learn from this?
Yeah.
So the first time that I actually threw that axe and that axe came back to me, and then I was actually like that stuff, that mechanic. Even though you spend, I don't know, 10 hours, 12
Mhm.
hours, or whatever that is for the game, it feels good every single time you do it. It never
Yeah.
gets old. It
Yeah.
never gets old. And I give them massive props for that, because that could be something that could actually feel completely old, and all of a sudden you're doing it because you're just kind of churning through the story.
Yeah.
But every time you have to like either break the ice or throw it on someone or get stuck on someone and you call it back, it just
Yeah.
feels super gratifying.
It feels so good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I don't know how they did it.
me too.
Because you
I'm
throw the X so much and it's like you think you
so
get tired
much.
of it, but every time it's like, yeah, it feels good every
It
single
feels
time.
Exactly. It's so
Yeah,
cool. And you can tell like they actually use that a lot. They like maximize that throw. How else can we use it for puzzles and other
yeah,
things? So it's really cool.
yeah. I'm looking forward to the next one. I can say that. I'm
Oh,
definitely
me
looking
too.
forward to the next one. Yeah, I
Me
can't wait.
too, man. Me too. I
Can't
feel like
wait.
they can do no wrong
Yeah,
at this point, right? Like Sonic
yeah.
Santa Monica. You're probably gonna see it before me because you're in the family. But I'm actually looking forward to it.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah,
Um, are you okay to take some questions?
sure. Yeah.
There's a few coming in.
Let's see. So
If you
here's
see
one.
any,
Yeah, were we allowed to add squash and stretch to miles? Or were you aiming for something more realistic? So in
yeah,
reality, there still is squash and stretch. So trying to keep him to feel realistic, but when you see him, if you do the zip where you press L2 and R2 and he goes to a perch, there's still some squash and stretch in there because when he's flying through the air, he's stretched out, and once he lands, he squashes up into a ball to secure that landing and adding a little bit of bounciness to that. And then for Miles in particular, because he is an experienced, I know we shot quite a few takes in mocap of just like different types of landings, like because
yeah,
that was one where initially I think I had one in there just to test it out. Like, does it feel okay for him to be a little off balance? And it felt fine, but that was one where it's like when you see it over and over and over again, it
yeah.
got old because it is so stylized. It isn't so simple because it has these little breakdown moments. So then I was like, all right, we need to have some variety. So adding variety to that and having like sometimes he lands perfectly on there, sometimes he messes up a little bit, and taking from real life experience of like when I do parkour,
Yeah.
um, there's
We need to talk about that, by the way.
for sure. But yeah, when I do parkour, there's times where I do a move, and
Yeah,
especially in the beginning, I'd mess up. I try it again. I do it great. And then the next time I mess up again, it's not like you're perfect once you get it the first time. You're gonna mess up. Everybody messes up from time to time.
yeah,
But adding that little flavor to Miles, I felt like helped add more to his character. Like, oh, he's still learning, but you can see sometimes he's getting it, sometimes he's still off a little bit, and it just
that's
adds
cool.
just personality a little bit. I felt.
That is amazing, man. That is really cool. And what's the ratio that you think about like mocap and hand key that you guys had to do in Spider Man?
Uh, I guess to be honest, it really depends.
Yeah,
It depends on the situation. There's some where we might have started from mocap and we've changed the mocap so much that it ended up becoming hand key.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I know like for traversal and swinging, all of that was hand key.
It
Like
was
I
hand
didn't
key,
use,
right?
yeah, I didn't use
I
any.
figure
I
I
think
figured as
I
much.
tried to use mocap,
Yeah,
and it was a lot harder to clean up than just to
yeah.
hand key it myself. And I was like, let me just hand key this and figure out how weighty we want it to feel at the end and how we can make it feel snappier when he hits the bottom of a web swing if we can
Yeah,
add some weight to that. So
nice one, nice one.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I've been through a few projects that you actually kind of ponder. Should we go hand key? Should we go mocap? Should we go 50-50? What's the
Hmm.
ratio? And in my experience, it's like it depends on the character that you're animating and depends on the action that you're animating as well, right?
Absolutely.
And then basically you kind of justify it, and especially towards the end of the project, you try to mocap as much as possible to save time. But some things just don't work.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, what, we got to get this in now. So
Exactly.
especially also it just depends on, yeah, what you're saying, like the character and stuff, but also is it just the hero? Is it NPCs in the background? Because if it's just an NPC, that might just be mocap, you
Completely.
know,
Yeah.
you know.
People are not going to notice it that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. We have Benny Davis here. He actually, I believe Benny. Correct me if I'm wrong, Benny, but I believe he joined Sonic Santa Monica.
oh, nice. Congrats.
Yeah, yeah. So congrats. Recently, I believe. So yeah, he's asking, what's your solution to animating and blocking things not physically possible on an existent?
Sometimes I'll get a stand-in. If we don't have a model or anything, I'll just create a sphere or
Mm,
so. And I typically just have an idea, a rough idea. And I'm an animator who I don't set a lot of times, I guess depending on the move too, but I don't set the whole move up in blocking stages. I kind of animate forward, just going
mhm.
from step to step. Because half the time also as I'm animating it, I'm like, ooh, if I twist his body here, it'll look cooler.
Yeah.
So I never animate the full move all the way through, and I just kind of go based off of how it's feeling. So my solution for that is I kind of go with the flow on a lot of things,
Nice.
but if there is like if it's depends on a lot of environmental stuff, I'll make a cube or a set of spheres stuff and have something to work around.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Makes complete sense.
I keep it rough. I'm not going to go into super details. I'm not going to polish the fingers when I
Yeah.
don't have especially like if he's picking up a big sphere or something. I'm not going to polish the fingers until we have the actual asset.
For sure, man. Makes sense. And how when do you actually get things in game for you to actually test out? Is it early on or later on in the stage?
Uh, I try to get things in pretty fast to see if it's fun.
Nice.
To be
Wise.
quite
Very
simple.
wise.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just let me see if it's fun. If not, let me change it real quick. See if
Yeah.
it's fun. Once we get like the fun factor of it, then I'll go back to polish it a little bit more.
Completely, man. Yeah, that's actually something that I try, especially with animators that either haven't been in games or they have been doing a lot of cutscene work or something like that.
Mhm.
That is something that is difficult to instill, but is something that is very useful as gameplay to actually get the animations in as soon as possible,
Yeah.
because it's all about the feel, like you
It's
keep
about
saying.
exactly.
It's about the
It's
feel.
more it feels like gameplay animation is more about the feel.
Yeah,
And like you get the anticipation after the impact because a lot of times because you want it to feel responsive
that's it.
because getting that feeling there is so important. So yeah,
Yeah,
the sooner we can get it in game, the sooner we can test it because you can put a whole bunch of time up front in Maya and it
yeah.
looks amazing. Then you put it in a game, it's like, oh, this doesn't feel as cool as it looks.
No, it's really sluggish and slow.
Yeah.
And
So
I've noticed that one thing that you can actually find out really early is anticipation. Like in most games, most actions, especially fast actions, don't really need an anticipation. You can just like snap into it and go into it.
yeah,
And people sometimes spend way too much time on anticipating a move to then do the move to then come out of the move.
yeah,
So this is why putting it in game actually gives you that those answers. Like maybe I don't need the beginning. Maybe
yeah.
I can just go straight
Yeah,
into it
cut
instead.
halfway through, see how that feels. Take
Yeah,
out a frame or two, and yeah, because
yeah, man.
once you get to that impact frame, that's when you have that time to like add some overlap and add the anticipation after, so you have the repercussions of the move of how powerful it is or whatever. You add
Yeah,
it after a lot of times for gameplay.
completely, man,
Yeah.
completely. Um, so this is interesting. Stick Slicker. Cool nickname. Um, so in terms of blend animations from doing a swinging trick to traversal, how complicated was that process?
Pretty complicated because initially I didn't know what I was doing. I had to figure it out. Initially, it was very similar to Pete Spider-Man, and there was something to it. At the end, I started figuring out, and I was like, where's another spot for me to get more iconic Spider-Man poses from the comics?" And that's kind
Yeah.
of where that branched out from. And a lot of times in comics, the cool Spidey poses, or the ones I like at least, are he's right in the beginning of shooting out a web,
Hmm.
or he just started and he's at this cool pose. They never show certain parts of the web swing. They
Yeah.
just only show like the beginning of it or like the very end. And I'm like, what happens in the middle? What's he doing
Yeah.
there? Um, so one of the moves, I think, is when you're doing a trick and you press back and he's doing his backflip. That was
Yeah.
the first one I tested because that one I was just like, how can I make this flow into a swing? And I had to create multiple transitions for that to try to even get it to work. But it's like, what kind of move do I want him to do?
Yeah.
Um, is it going to keep the momentum going? I had to figure that out because if he's
Yeah.
spinning to the left, he can't just stop and spin forward. And I think that's where a lot of it came from. Like after playing the first game, because we had tricks in the first game, and that was fun, but I felt like something was missing. So with that one, by adding that swing out, it felt rewarding.
Yeah.
Um,
That's cool, man.
it was just a lot of it because it's like I had to think about what's the pose he's going to be in when he first shoots it out.
Yeah.
What's going to be the pose when he's at the bottom of the web line? What's going to be the
Hmm.
pose at the top? Is he going to be sideways? Is he going to be holding it with one hand, two hands? How is he
Yeah.
going to recover from the momentum he was doing with his spins and the tricks? So
Nice.
figuring that out, what's the body mechanics for that? If I hold on to something like this and I'm spinning, how's my body going to swing? Where's my A body going to be? Where's my hips going to be in correlation to my arm?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. The beauty of gameplay animation, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really
So,
cool, man. Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing that. And when it comes to like making Miles different from the Peter Parker on the original Spider-Man,
mhm.
how difficult was that to actually kind of add that personality? Because you guys nailed it, but how difficult it was to actually get that transition in?
It was difficult, but it was in a way like we've all seen Spider-Man. We've all seen Spider-Man movies. We've had so many movies at this point to pull from. So we kind of in our head, every single person in the way has a moment, and well, they feel like they know what Spider-Man moves like.
Yeah,
And even with combat, it's like we kind of know what we expect from Peter.
yeah,
But with Miles, we only have one movie to pull from, and we have some comics and to pull inspiration from.
yeah.
But a lot of times, the question that we would always ask ourselves is like, all right, if this is the move that we want to do for Spider-Man, then we just add a layer to that, and it's like, what would be the Miles way of doing it? If would he be sideways doing this move? If the outcome is still the same, how would Miles make that different? Because he's a
Mhm.
teenager, he's trying to be cool, you know, he's
Yeah,
trying to look stylish.
that's it.
And I just remember like being a teenager. That's what I was into. You want to look cool, but like playing
Yeah.
games. I don't know if you remember like NBA Street or
Oh
NFL
yeah,
Street.
for
Those
sure.
games are all about style.
All about style, for sure, for sure.
And it's like you could just dribble, but if I could dribble behind the back and roll at the same time,
Yeah,
that looks cooler. And that's kind of my mindset was for Miles. Is like, what would he think in this moment? Like, oh, if I twist my body this way, this may look cooler. And
that's true.
then
Yeah,
adding Spider-Man back on top of that, like, well, if he is in this position, how can I use the webs to create torque? How can I use this to create some type of output for Miles for the end result that we want? So,
nice one. That's really cool, man. It's really cool to hear. And now that you mentioned that, oh, by the way, Stick Slicker was it's actually from Ninja Theory.
oh, sweet.
Nice one. Another game dev. This is great. So many game devs. So like. The fact that you actually had the comics, right? Because I also
Yeah.
hold the comics here with me, and the fact that you actually showcase the comics and then you actually like this is what I use for inspiration.
Hmm.
Like I really like that because I feel like going to different sources of inspiration to actually get the stuff that you need to actually get into your animations is
Yeah.
incredibly important. And I know that the comics, they're not really moving, but you can at least get the gist of the posing and the style and the background of the story, the character as well, right? A little bit better than the
A
movies.
little bit. Exactly. And you kind of
Yeah,
get that feeling of like, because of the action bubbles, you can kind of get that thought process of what Miles is going through in that moment, and then trying to figure out a way to add that into gameplay,
that's
as
it.
well as figuring out how did he even get in this pose? You
Yeah,
know, how did he get to the pose where one leg is out, another leg is behind him, and like it's such an awkward pose. How did he get here? Is he moving forward? Is he moving backwards?
that's
Figuring
it.
all that out. So yeah, looking at tons of reference from I even took it back to like the 60s Spider-Man show, and just looking at things like that. Like, what are some of the things that
Nice.
they did there?
Yeah.
And like, could that be an inspiration? Did they do something cool there? Let me
Yeah.
see. And I think for tricks in particular, looking at the indoor skydiving, I don't know if
Yeah.
you ever seen it on YouTube, but like indoor skydiving competitions, the way they move their body through the air is hypnotizing.
I've seen
It
some of that. Yes.
it is insane. So kudos to everyone that does that. I tried it.
Yeah,
I tried. I went
you
for
did.
my birthday. For my birthday 2 years ago, I went indoor skydiving, and
Yeah.
they're just like, yeah, if you want to float, do this. If you want to spin to the left, tilt your hands this way, and like the smallest tilt, and my body just went spinning around. And yeah, trying to add that flavor to Miles was something that was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I need to
Yeah.
figure it out because it's too cool not to put in there.
Yeah, that's
So,
guaranteed for sure. And so coming back to the parkour, like we have
mhm.
plenty of awesome questions. Thanks a lot, everyone. I'm curious because James actually does parkour. He has like some cool videos on Twitter. Definitely check him out on Twitter doing parkour. um, I was really impressed. I have to say, I was
Mhm.
really impressed. Like, I think if I tried like half of the move, I'll probably break myself into two. So, where did the passion started? Where did the
uh,
passion started? How far along are you, and how much do you do it? And how much did it influence Spider-Man and like your thinking about Spider-Man and all that?
So I've been doing flips my whole life. A lot of that came from a lot of my family in Alabama. I'd go up to see them, and there were trampolines everywhere, and we'd be on trampolines all day.
I
That's
see.
where that's where I'd spend my time with my cousins, and we'd be doing front flips, back flips, having our own backflips competitions of how many backflips can you do? And I remember one time we had a trampoline. The trampoline was on a hill.
Yeah.
Not smart, just being stupid kids. And
Trying different things.
yeah, trying different things. And we were like, how many backflips can we do? And I remember I was on my 10th backflip and I flipped off the trampoline, landed down the hill and just started rolled down the hill for a little bit. But like I've been doing flips my whole life. And then
So, do you break yourself though? Do you break
no,
anything? No.
to this day, knock on wood, I have never broken a bone in my body.
That is good.
Surprising, because I used to climb on top of the house and do backflips off the house for fun. Like
So
I
you
was
always
a
had a
wild
knack for it though, right? You always
kid.
had a knack for the adventurous.
Yeah, yeah. I was a wild
Nice.
kid, and then like growing up, I did martial arts for a little bit. I played football, I ran track, I played basketball. So I was an active kid. So
Nice.
that athleticism was always there. And then I want to say 2009, I saw the first YouTube video or commercial for this place called Tempest.
Mhm.
And that's where I go to do parkour. And I was like, one day I'm going to go to Tempest. And I moved out to LA, and I was like, oh,
Mhm.
it's the perfect opportunity for me to go there.
Nice.
And since I've been there, it's just like learning everything, because like I said, I didn't really have any training before. I
Mhm.
was just kind of doing it. So I didn't really have any form or anything. So once I got to Tempest, they started teaching me form of how to jump over things.
That's
And
cool, man.
I had form for jumping over things because in high school I ran track.
All
And
right. That's
I
cool.
did hurdles. I did
Yeah.
hurdles. So I used to do the 110 hurdles and the 300-meter hurdles in high school, high jump and triple jump. So anything jumping related, I was all for.
You're on it.
I was on it. I was on it for jump stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, parkour, it was just teaching you how to do breakdowns, how to do like a speed vault, how to do a reverse vault. And I had great coaches there that do amazing stuff. So
Yeah,
uh
that's really cool. I don't know if you've seen, like, the first time I saw parkour way back in the day was this French movie, Black and White.
yeah,
You know that?
yeah.
It's called. So my fiance is French. My fiance is French, so that we've seen all that kind of stuff. But that was before her, and at that
Mhm,
point in time, I was listening to a lot of underground hip hop and
mhm,
seeing those kind of movies. So that was one of them.
yes.
And I forget the name right now, because that's how they call parkour in France. In France, they don't say parkour; they actually say the name of the.
It's not free running. It's I can't think of it either right now. But
Ah, man.
I know what you're talking about.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So that the black guy that actually leads the parkour guys and actually is like doing all kinds of stuff, he became legendary. And yeah, from that point onwards, like I always kind of thought like parkour was amazing. And
It's funny to think about too, because you know, I guess you don't really think about it.
what is it called? Sorry, my fiance is actually telling me the name right now.
Oh,
One second.
perfect.
Oh, that's it. The Yamakasi. That's what it's called.
Yes. It's
um,
it's funny to think about though, because I guess you don't really think about it, but even if you watch like Jackie Chan movies,
yeah,
he's doing parkour
he's doing
everywhere.
parkour everywhere. That's true. That's true. That's
You
true.
don't
Kung
even
fu
think about it
movies.
because you just think
Just
he's doing martial arts. You're just like, oh, okay, but it's like he's
yeah.
doing parkour, like it's tied together in a way.
Yeah,
So
yeah, kung fu movies in general, they just parkour everywhere. So yeah,
yeah,
maybe that's where he started. But yeah, like I commend you for doing that because it's pretty cool, man. It looks amazing. So it must take your head off animation quite a bit as well, right?
yeah. I mean, kind of,
Yeah,
because it does, because it's freeing in the moment. But I also half the time, especially now, half the time I'm thinking, what's my body doing in this moment?
nice.
And so I'm kind of like, as I'm doing things, I'm trying to at least track my arcs, track what my legs are doing, and I'm okay. The other guys there are amazing,
Yeah.
and half the time I don't know what my body's doing. I'm like, hey, record me. I need to see you because I don't know what my leg is doing. They're like, when you do this, your legs always do this, and I'm like, I
I
can't
don't know.
help it. I'm like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
help it. It just happens.
yeah.
Sorry.
That's
So
it. Yeah, and how easy was that for you to take a reference for Miles? Because you must have
uh,
taken some reference as well, or was it not related whatsoever?
I mean, it definitely took reference. And luckily I was able to bring in one of my coaches to help with some of the mocap,
Oh, nice.
and he did amazing stuff to help bring Miles to life. And yeah, it was a great reference of just kind of knowing what being more familiar with what I want and what to
Yeah.
look for in Miles. And because I'm surrounded by like these professional athletes that do this all the time, telling them like, hey, pretend like you this is your first time doing it. How would you do it for the first time? Add some sloppiness to it, fall if you can, or
Yeah.
it just adds a little bit more flavor to it. So
Yeah, no, that's great, man. It's really cool. Yeah, like it reminds me, like, do you actually capture mocap yourselves at Insomniac, or do you actually get actors to actually do mocap?
No, we had amazing actors and actresses. Like,
Actors, okay,
yeah, they were top notch. So
amazing. Yeah. So
yeah.
in that case, you don't need to actually have the humble animator jumping into a suit, right?
No, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, but we still do it ourselves just for video reference. If we can't get to a mocap stage, we'll still do things
Yeah.
ourselves and record ourselves. Like, hey, how does this look if I do it this way? Record
Yeah.
ourselves, put it in Maya, and replicate it.
Yeah.
So
Use it as a reference. Yeah.
exactly.
Like the very few times that I actually had to capture mocap and jump in a suit, a lot of the
Mhm.
times people actually tell you things like that. Like in your mind, you're thinking whatever move you're making, it's epic. This is gonna be great in game.
Oh yeah,
And then whoever's looking at you is like, "Why are you doing that with your right arm all the time?" It's like, just stop it. It's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm just. But then when you look at yourself back, when you look at the video, it's like, yeah, why do I do that with my body? It's weird.
yep. First time that happened. I was in college actually, and in college we had a class where we got to be in motion. We had a motion capture class,
Hmm,
and there was like one day where we as students you got to choose who would get to be in the suit, and I was one of the lucky ones that was able to be in the suit.
nice.
Now, prior to that, in 2010, I tore my ACL.
Sheesh.
So I've never broken a bone, but I did. I ruined my knee.
Yeah, that takes a while to recover too, right?
Yeah, but apparently, like as I was sprinting one time, they were like, "Hey, did you injure yourself?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Oh, you have a limp when you run," and I was just like,
Oh
"What?"
snap!
So I never even knew, but
See?
because of that injury, years prior, they were like, "Oh, you can still see it in the data. Like there's something
Yeah.
going on." So
Exactly, exactly,
yeah,
and it's even worse whenever you capture something you have to clean the mocap yourself.
yep,
You're like, why are my knees so weird?
yep. That's right. That's what
And
I
then-
look like.
yeah, that's not as cool as I thought. And then
Yep,
then you have to clean yourself and make sure that everything looks as good as you thought. So yeah,
yeah,
it's nice, man. It's nice.
yep.
So by the way, thanks to everybody tuning in. We have about 94 people, nearly 100 people tuning in. 100 people just went over. So James, you're popular, man.
Oh, thanks
Peop-
everyone.
people want to know what you're saying. That's great. This is great. This might be the one the stream with most people so far.
Awesome.
So yeah, for everyone tuning in, make sure you drop your questions on the chat box, and we'll answer them as best as we can. So I think it's time, if you're okay, James, to actually showcase your show reel, and you can take
Sure,
us through it a little bit.
sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
nice one. Cool. So just gonna rewind it a little bit because I was watching it, and then
Yeah. The save the baby scene.
the same. Yeah, exactly.
Save
Really
the
cool.
baby.
So this bit here,
Mhm,
whenever he actually, it's a shame that I can actually go through frames because it's through Vimeo. But this bit here, when he actually kind of when he swings back and then he does this, and you can see the hand in the screen.
mhm.
That looks great. That looks really
Thank you.
cool. Yeah. So can you actually maybe share with us like how long would it take for you to actually go take a scene like that from beginning to end?
Uh, to be honest, that one was tricky just because it had so many branches of different things that could happen if you miss a button.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that I wanted to try to get every one of them to be unique. I didn't want to be like, oh, you failed, and it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the success version, I want to say probably took me about a week to 2 weeks.
A week to 2 weeks. That's cool
Yeah,
though.
and trying to get like the basic layout of what we wanted to accomplish, the fact that we wanted Rhino to go through the bridge,
Yeah.
figuring out where we want the slow mo to be, how is he picking up the baby,
Yeah.
and some of that, a lot of it was hand keyed. There's a little bit of motion capture in there,
Okay.
but majority of that is hand keyed animation. And like even when he crawls around Rhino at the bottom, so there's two parts in here, and a lot
Yeah.
of times as animating Spider-Man, I try to think how would a spider do this. So that part I was thinking like a spider wrapping his prey in a
Yes.
web. So
Yeah.
that's why
Exactly.
he's crawling. He's kind of spinning them and stuff.
Yeah. That's
And
how it
then
looks. Yeah.
he does it again at the end once they hit the ground. He does like that quick crawl to get under his arm
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to try to avoid it.
That
So
looks cool. That looks great, man. And like when it comes to choreographing a scene like this,
mhm.
do you have input on how the scene should look out as you're animating it?
a lot of it was just like going like I have moments in my head.
Yeah.
luckily I had motion capture that necessarily wasn't for that scene in particular,
Yep.
or it wasn't meant to look exactly like that, but I was able to tweak it and have him save the baby with this cool turn and stuff.
Nice.
But it's kind of just like the main point was like, hey, he saves the baby. We don't know how. That's up to the animator to figure out.
That's
And
great.
then it crashed through the bridge, and I was like, all right, let me figure out how this even
Yeah.
happens. Then I had to figure out like what happens if you don't save the baby, and that's when I have Pete come in and he scoops in to save the baby and stuff. So
Oh, is that what happened? So you actually have two outcomes to this scene, right? You actually gotta either save the baby yourself, or Peter Parker comes
or Pete,
along and
exactly.
saves the baby. All right, that's cool, man. See, those kind of moments are the stuff that actually adds a lot of replayability to games,
Yeah.
for you to see different things happening at
And
different
that's
times.
and that's and that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted that part in particular because especially since it's still early on in the game, it's not like you have to play this game for 5 hours before you get to this part, but it's still early on where you could
Yeah,
replay it and see what else happens in there. So if you don't press triangle, if you don't press X, if you don't press L1 and R1, like if you don't press those things, I wanted it to be like you see different versions of this scene happening playing out for you.
that's great. Really cool, man. And then this are the epic swings that you did in game. Look at this stuff flowing. Like,
So
it looks amazing, man.
luckily, like our animator from before, Elliot, he did an amazing job on the first game. So I already had a base to build upon. Like we already
Yeah,
had a lot of things figured out, which he's amazing. Like the whole
yeah,
team is amazing, and
yeah. I can
we had a
imagine, man.
we had a great base to build off of. But like that move in particular, where he's like upside down and he's like flicking his legs out. That's a move that's pulled from the indoor skydiving I was talking about,
This
where
one here, right?
I saw somebody doing that, and I was like. It's amazing. I got to figure out how Spider-Man does it. Like, how does he swing a web? How does
Yeah,
he shoot a web out of that to keep that momentum going? You know.
that's it. That's it. No, it looks great, man. Looks really, really cool. Like, and it flows really well. And like, if you actually skip through it. And by the way, thanks a lot, Tattooed Game Dev, for the tip. But yeah, shift arrow keys
Oh,
actually work.
nice.
Yes, I didn't know that either. But yeah, if you actually skip frame through it, you can see like the ins and outs slightly, but like when you actually play it, it just flows incredibly well, and you never think for once that you actually kind of are stuck in the move, which is actually like, a sin in games, right?
Right.
Um,
You want to make something as seamless as possible and
that's it,
make the
man.
player feel like they have control to do whatever at any time. So
Exactly. You want to give player freedom instead of actually getting them stuck on a move, an animation.
exactly, and
That's when,
that's what I really wanted for this tricks was to feel like
yeah,
an expression of the player to kind of do whatever you want to do
that's
in a
it.
sense. So,
Yeah, it's great, man. It's really, really cool. And I'm guessing this one's here are probably like halfway between cutscene and gameplay. Am I right?
Is it's I mean, kind of like where we are in control of the cameras a bit there.
Oh yeah.
So, but we have like alternate cameras depending on where the camera starts. So like trying to figure that out
Okay.
and showing what I wanted to showcase. So that one I really wanted the close up of the hand, and that one was the pose when he's on his back right there
Yeah.
was one that's pulled from the comics.
Nice.
Because initially when I was looking at it, I knew I wanted him on the character's back. But there's in the comics, there's a few poses that Miles does where instead of just like putting his hand this way on the
Yeah.
character on the enemy's back, he
Yeah.
like reaches over and like does this like claw thing. So
Nice.
I was like, let me figure out a way to do that. So like in that one there, that's what he's doing. He's like that's like a reference to one of the poses in the comics where he's like reaching to the other side.
All right.
So
So his hand is actually on the other side of his neck. Then that's great.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, explains why it goes down so much. That's really cool, man. Really creative, and I love the how fluid that move is right here. It
thank
just
you.
like just flows super well, man.
Oh yeah, the Insomniac logo.
The Insomnia logo, yeah, right in there on the shopping mall. That's really cool.
Yeah, even that was I kind of snuck that in there in the beginning, and I was like, I hope I can get this to work. And I found a model, and we just kind of put it in there.
Oh yeah,
And 'cause initially, it was just a hey, he jumps across to the other side. Maybe he swings off something. It's like, cool. How do I do that?
yeah,
And I was like, this is the perfect time to put like an Insomniac chandelier there. You
yeah.
know,
So this was your
um,
idea then?
yeah.
That's
And
great.
then luckily we had Trey, and Trey did an amazing job. I was like, "Hey Trey, can you like make this look cool?" So he added the lights on there on the side and like jazzed it up to look awesome.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
and then with Shane, he was like, "Yeah, man, let's do it." He let me rock with it, and we had the stars in there and everything. And yeah,
That's so cool, man. Like that creative freedom is actually priceless in games, man. It's really cool that you actually they allow you to do those things.
yeah, that one was a hand keyed one. That
The
was
whole
just
thing.
fun. Yeah,
Nice.
I initially just wanted the wreck miles. That was my whole point. And then I was like, oh, I need to have a success version. So that's the success version of it. But
Okay.
later on in the demo, you see the failed version. But
All right.
I started with the fail, and I was just like, I really just want to throw Spider-Man. Why not? So
Yeah, no, but yeah, like the whole thing, as always, like it flows really well. That's the theme of your show reel. It flows.
yeah, yeah, that one. I was just like, I just like I want to throw Miles. That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
toss him.
That was also Henki, I'm guessing, right?
That one was a mix of mocap, but it wasn't meant for that. I took it from elsewhere and like polished
Okay.
it up and changed it. But
Okay.
yeah,
On the fall, I'm guessing, right?
no, the fall was actually hand keyed.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah,
I see.
Rhino was the one that I used mocap for to get that spinning action.
But that's spinning it. Okay. Okay. I get it. So Spidey itself is actually Henki.
Yeah,
Right. Cool, man. See, the thing that I actually enjoy the most about Spider-Man, that's the thing that I was actually trying to find out the other day when I was playing it. Because I'm playing with my daughter, by the way, and we're having a
oh
lot of fun.
nice,
She loves Spider-Man. It's great.
awesome.
When I'm playing it, it's like, Daddy, you can do it, and I'm Spider-Man, so it's great. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
That's amazing.
It's really cool. But the thing that I actually enjoy the most about the whole this sequence, especially on the fight sequences, is like the anticipations to the actions.
Yeah,
There's always a little bit of something going on that makes you feel badass, and it's never too much and it's never too little, just the right amount. Sometimes it's more than others, but it always feels satisfying.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I felt like with Miles, like Andrew was our combat lead for this, but he let me do a couple of moves, and like for the moves I did, I
Yeah.
felt like a lot of times, like if you do the web shot when you press triangle, depending on the distance, he has like different versions of it,
Hmm.
of the moments where he's going to the enemy. And even in that, I added a couple of varieties where like sometimes he does it perfect, sometimes he does like a front flip with it, and sometimes he's a little out of control and he's just like, oh, like I got to get there.
Yeah.
So I need that just added a little bit more to his character, because I feel like in a lot of games when you do a move, you don't
Yeah.
think about it. It's like, oh, that's just the move. You don't
You
think
just do it.
about everything else that goes along with it, and if there is variety to it. So I
Yeah.
felt like adding variety to his character added more to his personality, and you feel it. You may not even notice it, but you feel it.
But you feel it, and that's a very important note right there, because games, just like movies pretty much, is actually about that feel like you have, like, because it adds texture to the animations and you don't know why, but you feel cool doing it, and that's
Exactly.
basically what you want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I get it, man.
This was the original one that we did for this when you crash to the bridge.
Right, yeah.
Oh man, that was fun.
That was fun. Well, it's cool when you actually spend so much time, because how long do you actually spend working on this project overall, from beginning to end?
That I can't say. That
Okay.
that that's been a while.
No worries, no worries, no worries. It's fine. So, like, the fact that you actually say that it's cool and that you're enjoying it, even after spending a long time working on the project, that means that is a successful project, both like
Yeah.
creatively, but also like how people were managed. Because sometimes you actually get the projects that are like AAA amazing projects. As a game,
Mhm,
as a final product is amazing,
mhm.
but as a developer, sometimes you don't really enjoy it because there's been so much back and forth of
Yeah.
changes or
I mean,
management or whatever.
the projects are your lives for a few years, depending on how long you work on it. So we see the
Exactly,
same
man.
thing over and over again.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So this bit here was the stuff that I actually enjoyed the most out of the show reel.
Oh really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because the amount of tricks that you actually kind of put together, and it shows a lot of work for you to actually get in and out of all these moves like seamlessly, and just make it all look fine. Like it looks fun. It looks fun. It looks like you had a lot of fun working on this.
And I did, and that's the thing. Like that's what I really wanted to come across because I wanted it to
Yeah.
feel as a player. I wanted the player to, of course, I want the player to have fun,
Yeah.
but I want the player to like. I felt like it was a little bit extra fun, I guess you could say, because Miles looks like he's enjoying himself by doing these moves because it is so. It feels free. It feels so
Exactly.
freeing to like do all these spins and stuff, and then as a player, you have control to spin forward, to spin back, to like to twist in that, and there's a transition for it all where
That's it.
he just kind of like flicks his legs to build that momentum up to twist his body a certain way.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, no, I find that like the games that are normal that the devs have more fun are normally the games that end up being the best to play.
yeah,
Like you can see the fun that developers had in the game when it's
absolutely.
released. There's something about it. I might be proven wrong in the future, but not 9 times out of 10, normally you can
Absolutely.
see when the devs had fun, and these games look like that everywhere. Not only animations, just overall.
Again, that was just when I was like, I really just want to wreck Miles. Anytime I do something for the enemy, I'm like, I just want to destroy Spider-Man. What's gonna hurt?
Cool though. And that looks like one heck of a punch.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Really cool. And the suits that you actually have in this game, like it must be cool for you as an animator to see you've planned your animation, you've done your animation, you put it in game, and then it looks different depending on the suit, right?
Oh yeah, it does. Like it feels different, and like my team knows every time we got a new suit, I'd be the first one to be like, "Hey man, a new suit's in the game. I'm testing it out."
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
it felt like Christmas to me as a
Yeah.
dub. It felt like Christmas every time a new suit was added. So I'd always hit up like Gavin, Jason, and Colt, and just be like, "Hey, yo, this suit is sick." And like
Yeah, man.
certain moves, I felt like I really did. I really enjoyed more with certain suit. Like anytime I kicked somebody in the face, it had to have the suit with the Tims. Because getting kicked in the face with Tim's on must hurt.
It's oh,
So
oh, it must hurt for sure.
so like every suit, like I love all the suits in this game, man. Like
Yeah.
they just different. They bring a different feeling to it depending on the lighting and
Yeah,
yeah.
man,
So
it's
good.
excellent. It's excellent. And sorry, you don't have to answer this if you don't, if you can't. But the Spider-Man, the Miles Morales suit, the one that actually kind of changes animations from being just 60 frames to being
Mhm.
like it looks like 2 frames, stepped animation.
Yeah.
How do you guys pull that off? Because to me, like I thought it was a stroke of genius to actually get that in.
That was our core team. They did magic behind the scenes to pull that off. I have no idea how they did. It feels really cool. But
Oh,
yeah, they did their magic behind the scenes to get that to work, to take the animations that we've done and make it feel like it's on twos and
yeah.
all, and then on top of that, adding on top of that, like trying to make sure that the impact frames are still there and not skipping the impact frames, because that could happen.
That's what I
So
mean. That's why I was so
it's so
surprised. Like
much. Yeah.
it blew my mind because I was like, there's so many things that could have gone wrong here.
Yeah, no, they did a crazy good job with that stuff. Like
Yeah, man.
they're way smarter than me on figuring that stuff out. Like me, I'm just like I just make stuff move. That's all I
That's
do.
it.
Yeah,
That's what I tell people as well. Yeah, we need those people. Otherwise, the games would not be here. So
absolutely.
yeah, that's completely right. But yeah, no, it looks really cool, man.
Thank you. Oh yeah, this one was fun.
Oh, nice.
This one was a lot of fun to put together
Yes.
because I knew like this one for instance. The only thing I knew I wanted was I wanted Miles to be sliding on something. I didn't know if it was going to be the front door. I didn't know if it was going to be the trunk.
Yep.
But the main thing was I wanted him to slide on something. How do I get him to take care of the enemy? Like that stuff came later. The main thing was I wanted him sliding on the door because I felt like a teenager would be like, that would feel cool.
That would feel cool. Yeah.
I'm surfing on a door.
That's it.
So and then came across the him doing the backflip off and sweeping through and trying to get like a cool arc as he goes through the door and everything.
Yeah.
And then even coming with this, like the Bugatti mechanics, like which way is he gonna flip? Which way is the door gonna turn for him to be able to do this?
Sure. It's great, man. Like it looks epic, and like details of like the gun just passing through
Yeah,
like in front of the camera.
the gun and the cup.
Yeah, and the cup. Yeah, exactly on the left. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's really cool, man. The fact that he does that, when he lands, he's actually on this surfing pose. This is what a surfer would do as you get into the board. So I can tell that you actually been looking at some surfing. I mean, most
Yeah.
likely,
I
right?
mean, between that and then like one of my coworkers, Josh, he does surfing and he does that stuff, and I talked to him
Yeah,
about this a little bit. And yeah, that was the main focus for this move, was just getting that him on the car door.
yeah, man. No, it looks really cool. The fact that he actually does that is nice. And yeah, like this bit is very, very, very Spider-Man. The fact that he goes like with both webs, like
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And his little celebration of him feeling like the victory. I just stopped this car. Like,
yep,
this is my ground. That was my thought process of like when he does this flip and lands on a car, of just being like, oh, I've done a cool thing.
I
This is
did
this is
this.
mine. Like this is my car now.
Yeah,
Type
that's
of
it.
feeling.
Nice one. Ah,
And,
cool, man.
and
This
that one
is
was all hand keyed.
all hand keyed.
Yeah.
That that anticipation and then the snap into the move,
Yeah.
super cool.
Like,
That that looks cool. And you actually did the camera work as well on
yeah.
when you choreograph these scenes.
Yeah. The finishes, we did all the camera work as,
Oh,
as well. So.
yeah.
So we fought to get this in.
Oh yeah.
This came about last minute. This is during COVID, at home, and I had a thought of like, what if like when the player like basically I thought about Sonic
Yeah.
and the Sonic games and the old ones. If you just don't touch the controller, he would look at the screen, and if
Yeah.
you don't touch it for long enough, he would jump off, and you'd lose a life. Like
Yeah.
that was kind of the inspiration for this.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
That's true though.
like if you just didn't touch the controller for a long time, he would just be like, "I'm tired of waiting," and just like
Commit
you'd lose a life.
suicide.
Yeah.
That's
And I
true.
was like,
Forgot about
I don't want to go that dark. But
that.
I was like,
Yeah.
what if he just starts humming to himself? What if he just starts humming and does his own little dance?
Yeah.
And that's where this idea came about. And they were just like, oh yeah, he just starts grooving to a tune. And like Najee was
Yeah.
on board and he did the humming for it and everything. And
Because it feels to me, because this is super on character, it feels to me like the beginning of the movie whenever he's actually listening to the song and tapping on that
exactly.
with a highlighter and stuff. It feels to me like that. So it's like super on character, this.
Yeah. Cause like, yeah, if you're just sitting up there bored and nothing's going on, it's like you have to
Yeah,
entertain yourself somehow.
sure, man. And you can tell, like as a teenager, he probably has his AirPods under the suit,
Yeah.
right? So to
You
entertain
know,
himself.
he's grooving to something.
That's it, exactly. Yeah, the shading and the work that went in this suit it's great. It's really
Yeah.
cool, man.
They did a killer job with that suit.
Oh, it's
It's so
so
good.
cool, man. It's just like the whole shading. It's just only him. It's not the world itself, but only him. He's just like, yeah, just shaded, just like the movie. It's great.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, thanks a lot for taking us through that.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man.
that, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, how are you doing for time?
I'm good. I'm free.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
cool. So maybe we can take some more questions because this has
Yep.
been fun. I appreciate you taking the time, man. Um, so if you see anything that actually kind of sparks your interest, let me know.
Let's see. For spacing, do I work a lot in the graph editor? Absolutely. Um, that's by David Indolfo. I hope I said that correctly.
Yeah.
But yes, I do use the graph editor all the time. Graph editor is my best friend. Between the graph editor, I personally like to use the tracks editor.
You do lose the tracks editor. That's like super old school. I used to use
It's
that
super
back in
old
the day.
school. It's
Super old
super
school.
old school. Well, now we have the time editor.
Yeah.
But the tracks editor, I think for me, it's just like the values of being
Yeah.
like, I want something at 50%. I could just type in 50 and it'll
Yeah.
play it at 50% or 150 and going
Yeah.
between that and blending clips. But I always use the graph editor, time editor, and tracks editor for spacing and figuring out the timing of anything. And a lot of times I do that, like especially when I'm working with mocap, I do that before I get started cleaning up anything. I get the timing of things first,
Yeah.
and then I go into like lining things up and stuff. Because if I get the timing down to where it feels good,
Yeah.
then all I have to worry about is polishing. I don't have to worry about retiming it again and such. So I try to get the
Nice
timing
one.
down first. That's a lot of times that's the first thing in my workflow.
Yeah, exactly. And then you polish it after you see it in game, I'm guessing, right? After you actually do the in-game pass of how things look in game and how they feel.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
nice one. Um, to game dev. Yeah.
What's up, man?
What's up? Yeah, he's asking if the web procedural animation is handled in engine or did you have a Maya rig for those scenes?
It depends. It depends. In gameplay, sometimes it is procedural, but in cinematics or certain finishers, we have actual rig for the web to do multiple different things. So and like in the first game, in the advanced suit scene, when you first get him, when he first appears over the I think it's the third or fourth shot, when you see him coming over the building, he shoots the web down
Yeah,
to come down. He starts to sliding on that roof. If you look at the web, if you pause it right there, I created that web to have a spiral that like centers. It focuses in on Spider-Man, so it's just this ring of the web, and then
hmm
right in the middle is Spider-Man. So we have some
cool.
control. You have some control over to do certain things with the web. So
Nice one, nice one.
yeah,
So, is it more like if you actually want control of the web for a specific reason, then you use the Maya version?
it
If not,
just
then it's a
just
procedural.
depends. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just depends on the move and what we're trying to do for gameplay purposes. So
Okay, man.
yeah.
That's cool, man. So a shout out to Chromosome. Chromosome is actually uh, doing the admin work in the background and making sure that there's
Oh,
nothing weird in the comments. And
shout out to
he's
Amazon. Thank you.
yeah, exactly. He's working hard behind the scenes. So appreciate that. I always forget to actually shout him out as well. So appreciate it.
Oh, here's one. By Momo Draws. Hi, I just watched your demo reels. They are amazing. Any advice for someone trying to get into the game industry doing animation? What keynote should one have in their port? So I can't say for everyone, of course, but my experience was when I first got in, my first studio was Naughty Dog. And for one, just being familiar with that studio is gonna be helpful because the example I want to use is like you wouldn't apply to Disney and want to work on Mickey Mouse, but then your demo reel shows Call of Duty work. Like it's
Completely.
two, even though it's animation, it's two completely different styles. So catering your style to a certain studio that you would like to work at. So when I got my job at Naughty Dog, I'm I've definitely been. I was like a Naughty Dog kid. I had Crash. I had Jack and Daxter. I had all those games, and then Uncharted was the game that was out currently, and of course I played Last of Us 2. But um, I was familiar with Uncharted, and it's like knowing how does this character move, what are they looking for, and trying to cater things to that studio that you're trying to get into. I feel like helps
Yeah.
if you're going for a more realistic approach. And it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I'm applying to Naughty Dog, worked for Uncharted. I have to do something very Uncharted like, but something at least realistic, I would feel like something in that style. Because same with us, if you apply here, but I only see Disney style animation, or if it's just 2D animation, it could be great work, but if it doesn't fit the studio,
Yeah.
that would be a key that you want to look at and making sure that your style matches the studio and what you have to bring, what you have to offer.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with that, man. It's I think the industry is changing a lot. So I feel like a few years back, you could send a cinematic short reel to us, the game studio, and they'll probably take you in. But
Yeah,
at this point in time, I think that the games industry has changed so much that you have to showcase the stuff that the studio is looking for in your short reel,
yeah,
specific to the studio, right?
yeah, yeah. At
Yeah.
least a little bit. You have to touch on it
Yeah.
to know that if they are bringing you in, they don't have to spend the whole time training you on how
Yeah.
to animate in this style. You have to showcase I know how to do this style. Because
Completely.
there you go, math, right? If you only knew if you only knew addition,
Yeah.
but the studio you're applying to does subtraction,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, it's still math, but it's not the same.
Yeah. It's
You
good.
know?
It's good for you, but maybe not for us, right? That's kind of thing.
Exactly.
Continue
Yeah.
applying. So yeah, no, great tip, man. Great tip. Um, David at Andolfo has some more graph editor questions. If you actually for the spacing, do you work a lot in the graph editor?
Yeah. The graph editor is the best friend. Graph editor is the best friend. Understanding that is key. I feel like to a lot of things, and understanding little tools that are inside the graph editor, because the graph editor itself has tools to manipulate keys and shift things around for better spacing. And
Hmm.
starting small, figuring out what you want. Like I know a lot of times my workflow is what do I want the A body to be, because that's where the whole body is going to be. Figuring out the arms and the legs later, and having a general, for me at least, finding that general idea of poses I may want to hit. But the core thing is finding out where you want the A body to be throughout whatever you're trying to do. So
Nice one. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and Momo has another great question. How does one stand out when applying for jobs, considering they got thousands of people applying?
So for me, the one thing I look for is creativity. That's something like I always try to push myself. Like I said, like for in the first game, having Spider-Man drag his hand on the ground. For Miles, trying to have him fall in reverse. How do you be able to do that? So for
Yeah.
real, I feel like any type of creativity is a plus in my eyes, but also just attention to detail. And it could be the little things, the way you pick up a cup. You could pick up a cup multiple different ways, but
Yeah.
how the character does it. Are you adding personality to this character? Like when he picks the cup up, is the cup hot? Does he burn his hand? Adding some overlap, adding some arcs in there, making sure that you have squash and stretch and you have the basics of
Yeah.
animation is key.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think having that original idea is definitely key, right? Because I mean, you can pick up a cup a gazillion billion ways, but if your cup grab is actually better than everyone else's, or it's done in an interesting way that no one has seen before,
Exactly.
um, even if the execution is kind of so-so, the creativity is going to be there, and someone is going to pick up on it and be like, you know what, this guy actually thinks a little bit outside the box, and
'Cause
we want him.
yeah, exactly. That's what I
Yeah,
like. I like the creativity of things. I like the things that are outside of the box and things that like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, or oh,
that's it, man.
I never thought about doing things this way. Like I don't know if you're familiar with too much anime, but the anime Soul Eater, there's a character.
I don't know Soul Leader, but I'm a big fan of anime.
Okay, there's a
Yeah,
character, and like, and it's the simplest thing, but like the way he pulls out two guns,
yeah,
and for instance, if this is the gun, right? Most characters are holding it like this.
yeah.
Whatever reason, he has his gun upside down, and he shoots with his pinky. Doesn't make any sense, but it sticks in my head, and it's like that's a creative choice.
That's a creative choice, completely, man,
And it's
completely.
I haven't seen any other character do that.
Yeah,
That's is comfortable with shooting two pistols with their pinkies. So.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like what you want when you showcase a portfolio, it doesn't matter where it is getting people going like this, huh?
Exactly. It's
A-
it's
And
those it's those moments that stick out.
exactly, yeah, yeah. It doesn't matter if he's actually like useful or not, or great or not, but as long as he's out there, then yeah, it's nice, man.
Yeah.
Um, Game Anim. Well, that's cool. Welcome to the channel. Game Anim is here. Um, can you talk about the low frame effect on? Yeah, that's exactly what we talked about before.
Yeah, that was
Every,
all the core team. Everyone wants to know about
yeah,
that. And
for
yeah, that
sure,
was
man.
the core team that figured out a way to implement that. I have no idea how they did any of that magic. They are way smarter than
In
me.
all honesty, I think the whole industry was actually scratching their heads, going like, "Wow!"
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah,
just
it's such a cool feature, and it's like, it's such the opposite of what everyone wants, because everyone was like, oh, 60 FPS, we want more frames, and they're like, we're gonna give you the low end, and you're gonna
yeah,
like it.
and you're gonna
Like,
like it because it goes against everything that we do in games, right? I mean, like playing a game in twos, sure, in movies it works as well, and but playing a game in twos is like, yeah, the amount of discussion that must have gone internally of
yeah.
like trying to actually
So, like
get people to get on board with the
once
idea.
it was in, it was like, yo, this is amazing.
Yeah,
Like again, it felt like Christmas every time you load the game up and something new was implemented.
yeah,
It felt like Christmas between that and like the thwips coming up when you punch someone, and like when the onomatopoeia started popping up, it was like, yo, that's amazing. We need that. Like,
that's it. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Awesome, man. That's really cool. So Stick Slicker. I'm back with a good question. Do you have any tools or shortcuts for animating?
Oof. That's a good question. I honestly I don't have too many. Like I don't have any manual shortcuts that I've set on my keyboard, surprisingly.
Right.
I mean we have our own tools, and I feel like every studio has their own tools, but we have our own tools that help out with certain things. Um, but I don't really have any tools for shortcuts. I just know my workflow, and probably my workflow is the most beneficial thing for me,
Of
just
course.
because
Yeah.
I figure out the timing and spacing really fast. That's probably the key thing for a lot of the animations I do,
Yeah.
is figuring that aspect out and then going from there. But those are my own little shortcuts in my head, not necessarily tools to have
Yeah.
shortcuts.
Fair enough, man. Like I keep saying to everybody, like as long as you get the animation done, doesn't matter how you do it.
Exactly.
But then there are shortcuts, and I mean, MI is such a huge piece of software. Like you can actually spend just like your whole career just making interesting shortcuts and interesting like hotkeys and stuff like
And
that.
story about
So
that. Story about that. Like first time I had Maya was 2009,
yeah,
and at that time I had no idea what I was doing. I got it, and I was like, "Cool, I'm gonna learn how to Maya." Like I don't know
how
what I
to
was doing. I was
my
like, I'm gonna learn how to Maya." I opened the program up, saw all the buttons, and immediately closed it, and was like, "Ah, this is intimidating."
yeah, for sure, for
I
sure,
was
for
like, I
sure.
was like, I don't know what's going on. There's too many tabs. I press a tab, everything changes. I'm done with
Yeah,
it. And then the very first thing I did in Maya was I looked up a YouTube video, and all it was the guy was like, I'm gonna show you how to make a USB. So
yeah,
that was the very first thing I created in Maya, was just like like a little flash drive basically,
yeah,
and learning how to like use NURBS curves and create polygons and
yeah,
bevel. And so initially when I went to college, I actually thought I was gonna be a modeler. I
yeah.
wasn't going down the path of animation. Until I got to the animation class. And I was definitely an overachiever in college.
Mm,
High school, not so much. But
yeah.
college, I got like once I was at Full Sail, it was just like the fact that this is catered to everything that I want to do. So I didn't get into animation until I got into the animation class.
Yeah.
And that was the first class that I didn't get an A plus in. And
Interesting.
that's what sent me on the animation path. Because every other class I got A pluses in. And I was just like, all right, cool, I get that. I
So
understand
you
that.
saw it as a challenge. You're like, all right, cool.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
I think I got like an A minus. So it's still an A, but it's like I was like an A minus. I was like, what is this?
What to me? So you can thank that teacher, right?
Yeah. So that's
Yeah,
what it was, and that's what sent me down. It's like I need to figure this out, and then
nice one, man.
yeah,
That's cool. Yeah, no, it's funny how we actually get here. Like there's not like this is why I do these live chats because I like to actually find out exactly how people actually got to the industry some way somehow, and everyone has their own different ways of getting in, and like
yeah,
I find it fascinating to actually see that. Yeah,
yeah,
to me, it's always cool.
yeah. Everyone has their own story and this
Yeah,
unique path on how they got in the industry or how they got started or what interests them.
yeah.
And it's so interesting to hear everyone's story about. Matter of fact, what how did you get here? Like, what
How
was your what made you be like animation is my thing?
Um, good question. So I actually wanted to work in movies way back in the day, and
Mm,
the university that I studied in, the West London University, they tricked me because what happened was what happened was that I wanted to be an illustrator for the longest time, right? So I
mm,
actually used to illustrate comics. That's why I read comics as well, and I thought there's no degree on getting to being an illustrator. You have to freelance most of the time. That's how you actually make, as you probably know very well.
yeah.
So I thought that's probably not a life for me. I wanted to have a full-time job. So
Mhm.
I was like, what's the closest thing to illustration? Sequential art, animation. So I went to find a university that actually had animation to actually find out what that was about and if I could do it because I wanted to do it, have a degree. And they told me when I started, well, our university is the best because every end of the year we have people from Disney and Pixar, and they'll review your work, and they'll probably, if you're good enough, they might give you a chance.
Yeah.
And to me, that sounded like candy. I was like, I'm gonna go to this university because wow, damn, they have it going on. So long story short, I did 3 years. I pretty much didn't learn anything about animation because we were the first year to do any animation in that university. We learned
Mhm.
Maya. That's what we did. We learned
Okay.
Maya. We didn't really learn animation.
Right.
And no one from Disney or Pixar came along. It was just that's
Oh,
basically it. You just studied and learned Maya and left. So I felt like it was kind of a waste of time.
Did
But
you have a dream studio at that time?
Pixar at that point.
Pixar? Okay.
Yeah, Pixar.
I think that's like everyone's dream is like Pixar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, when Toy Story came out, it was 1995. I was 15 at that point. And yeah, I was like in love. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is like this is amazing. I didn't thought this is what I want to do, but I just thought this is amazing. Like the fact that they managed to do this. Um, Thankfully, after university, I actually got a mentor. First time I got a mentor, and Jason Ryan, one of the founders of animation of iAnimate, and he was the one that spent a couple of years like emailing me back and forth while I was actually struggling as an animator,
mhm.
going like, I can't do this and this is too much work, and he was like, don't worry, everything's going to be fine, just keep at it. I can see some talent in you. I'm like, are you sure this is rubbish? So
Yeah.
so yeah, I commend him for that, because if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be here, because you
Yeah,
know, animation is tough, man. You actually
it
spend,
is.
sometimes it feels like you're going nowhere. You apply it everywhere and you feel like you're not talented enough, or sometimes you feel like you're talented but other people go in front of you that are not as talented, and
Yeah.
it's just,
I,
there's a lot of ups and downs.
I remember when I got my start because before I moved to California, actually this was 2015. I want to say it was like March, and I flew to California for a week just to
Mm,
visit. And I was like, let me see what California is like. I've never been out here. It's the
yeah,
complete opposite side of where I'm from. Let me see what it's like. And what I did was I reached out to my school and I was like, hey, can you send me a list of any animators that graduated from the school that live in LA? So they
yeah,
got sent me a list, and I just kind of reached out. I was like, "Hey, do you have a moment to just speak? Do you have a moment to like go over my reel?" And I remember one in particular, I got to meet with this guy Carson DeGreco, and thank if you're watching Carson, thank you so much. But because he used to work at Naughty Dog, and he just gave me some tips on my demo reel at the time, and he was just like,
nice,
"Hey, man, if you want to do this, you keep going with it, basically." And
yeah,
it's like if you have an animation test that you have to do, make sure you do exactly what they say. If they give you 2 weeks to do it in 2 weeks.
that's it, man,
Don't take extra time. Don't try to like spend extra time polishing because you can see it. You'll know.
for sure.
And did that, and yeah, that was such a some great advice that I've gotten from him. And he showed me some animations to look at, and just like the amount of polish that went into certain animations was mind blowing. Like
That's cool, man.
the amount, if there's anything I got from Naughty Dog, it's just finger details. I spent so much time on fingers, making sure that the fingers aren't sliding, make sure that there's finger contact and everything. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you went through that process of like thinking in the beginning, why do we spend so much time doing this? And then seeing it in the end game, you're like, this is how we spend so much time, right?
yeah, it's like, oh, okay, I see
I
why
see.
so much
Yeah.
time was spent on this. So
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, having mentors, I think I have a video too about this, but having mentors is like, it shortcuts your learning in an insane amount of time. Like, it's like, there's nothing else. And I don't know if you felt that way, but to me, like at this point, Jason Ryan was working in DreamWorks, and having someone from a big studio telling me what to do when I don't even know one animator at that point, to me felt like everything. Even if I didn't make it, at least I had someone looking at my thing and like just going like, I believe in you, you good. That faith, that little thing that they actually see in you, and they go like, just continue doing these things and giving you tips. That stuff goes a long ways, man.
it does. And I feel like between a combination of believing in yourself, because you have to believe in yourself,
Yeah,
but then also you can't have an ego that's like when you get critiques, like, because as you know, like in game animation, you'll put something out that you think is this amazing thing, and it's like, nah, we don't like it.
we don't like it.
So
Yeah,
being open to having critiques and stuff is
yeah,
key, especially in the very beginning when you're trying to learn, when you're trying to understand things.
yeah.
um it takes a lot, and it sometimes it hurts because like you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear like, oh, this worked. I thought this was amazing. You saying it's bad. All right. You're like, you don't, nobody wants to hear
Yeah, well, I disagree. I think it's amazing.
that. It
Yeah,
happens, but being open to that, but also if you feel strongly about it, I also feel like voicing that, like why you chose certain avenues. And a lot of
mm,
times you could come to a compromise where you could keep parts of your original idea and then
yeah,
tweak it for the better, and that way it appeals to a lot more people.
for sure,
So
man, for sure. And another thing that goes with that, actually, not getting attached to your work, or by actually putting it in game and showing it to people ASAP, goes a long way for you to actually have that heartbreak in the end when you spend a lot of time polishing it and making it look amazing, to
yeah,
then show it to people and be like, no, this doesn't work, start again.
Yeah.
That stuff is the worst. So if you
It's
actually
heartbreaking.
don't, yeah, exactly. Even today, if I actually were to do the same, I'll probably be like, feel like I spent so much time doing this, and just to do it again.
Yeah.
So like showing a rough, showing it quick, especially in games, and showing it to as many people as you can, especially non-animators,
Yeah.
helps a ton.
And as creatives, a lot of times we want to keep our stuff to ourselves
Yeah,
until it's done. And I remember early on when I was young, my father really wanted me to put any of my artwork into, like, he wanted me to submit my artwork for the newspaper to get comics and stuff.
yeah.
And that wasn't what I wasn't ready for that. I was like, nah, Dad. I was like, I don't think my artwork's not good enough. I don't want
Nice.
to put it in. I don't want my stuff in the newspapers. I'm too shy. But he
Yeah,
definitely wanted me to like have that edge of put your work out there, let other people see it and stuff.
yeah.
And I was like, I ain't got no choice. I have to put it out there. It's like, hey, take a look. Is it good? Is it bad? All
That's
right,
it.
cool.
If you want to get a
So
job, right?
exactly, exactly.
Completely, man. Completely. So Byron Gonzalez asks, are there animators that specialize in certain categories? Like, for example, a person who focuses on animation on creatures and animals versus humanoid. Yeah, you can go first.
Okay. I feel like everyone has something that they're unique and specialize in. I feel like
Yeah,
everyone has stuff that they're stronger in. Um, like from my personal experience, I feel like at least I'm becoming stronger in body mechanics. And
yeah,
that's just from my understanding of from my background of being an athlete majority of my life, from doing parkour. I have a certain eye for body mechanics and physics that catch my eye.
yeah.
And there's other people that are better in face animation and they study that and the movement of like the eyebrows and that stuff is animating the face is hard.
Yeah, it's really hard.
But
Even for me nowadays, it's like I
it's
still
so
commend the
hard.
animators. It's super hard. It's like like two animations into one. There's a body animation, the face animation. Both of them have to work in concert.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
it's a rough
something
thing,
else.
but I feel like everyone specializes in something in animation, and you can be general and understanding. And I feel like for a lot of animators, once you understand body mechanics, you can be general in a
Mhm.
lot of things and be able to do animal creatures and any of that stuff and monsters and stuff. But I feel like everybody has something that they're special in, something that they are very good in.
For sure, for sure. And just to add to that, in games, like there is specialized animation roles. Like there's people that are specialized on first-person animations, for example, for like games like Call of Duty, and there's people that actually specialize on creatures. For example, games like Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah,
Like we had a
Horizon, so
great
beautiful.
game. Yeah, so there's definitely specialization happening in games, so definitely a thing. But like what I keep saying to everyone is like it's good to actually expand your horizons and try different things, like a bit of creature, a bit of first person, a bit of body mechanics, stuff
Absolutely.
like that. But as James mentioned before, like whenever you apply to a studio, like Insomniac, for example, I don't think you should actually apply with first person animations because
Yeah,
that's not what they do. So
how we do. Yeah,
that's basically what I would like to add to it. So yeah,
absolutely.
cool, man. Um, so I think because it's been an hour and a half, and I don't want to like take too much of your time,
For
James.
sure, for sure.
But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thanks for having me. It's been fun. It's been fun, man.
yeah, cool, man. Yeah, like thanks for the insights. Um, awesome questions, everybody. Really cool. I really enjoy this. I haven't done this for a month and a half, so you're the first person that do this like for a long time. So
First of 2021.
first of 2021, yeah, starting the year right, because this was
There we
great.
go. So
Cool,
thank you
Ted.
again.
Thank you. So everybody, see you guys next time, and hopefully you can actually get James back at some point in the future.
Sounds good, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. No problem. See ya.
Take care.